All right, 112. We're still talking about Unit 6. We're talking about Chapter 29. Got to talk. We get involved in the war. There's a lot of things happening before we get involved in the war. One of the big things that we got to talk about is we got to talk about the Holocaust. The Holocaust is our term for it. Hitler's term was the final solution. The final solution to the problem of what the heck to do with the Jewish people. Okay. Undercutting the Jewish people, taking their belongings, taking their money, taking their property is one of the huge ways that he can fund some of the changes that he's doing. And so what he's going to do is he's going to paint them as a scapegoat. Folks, we love someone to blame. We love a scapegoat, and it's easy for him to point out to the Jewish people. It's easy for him in Germany to say, hey, look, the Jews have all the money. The Jews have done this. Jews have done that. Look at how many other poor people there are, and look at them. They're still professionals. They're still living well. They're still doing well. And because of some of the Jewish religious traditions, folks, they're going to be easy to see and easy to distance, so he can paint them as the cause, and by alienating them, by ostracizing them, he makes himself seem better. And so what he's going to do is he's slowly going to strip them of their vote, of their enfranchisement, of their goods. He's going to take and push them into ghettos. He's going to push them into clumps of area where they have very few rights, to have very few of anything, and eventually what's going to happen is he's going to paint them as enough of an issue where they have to be relocated. Think United States and Trail of Tears, because that's what he's going to do, is forcibly relocate him. And this is really going to come to a peak during the night of Kristallnacht. The night of broken glass, because what's going to happen is there's going to be an assassination attempt, and it's going to be linked back to supposedly a citizen who is indeed with Jewish heritage, and he's going to say, look, this is a Jewish plot to get rid of our government, to get rid of our people, and there's going to be a huge backlash, and the government is going to okay this attack, this driving out of the Jewish people from their shops, from their temples, from their synagogues. They're going to be smashed, and that's why they call it Kristallnacht, out of broken glass, because they're going to shatter shop windows. And eventually this is going to result in them being transported transported to what become these labor camps, what become these concentration camps, to put it nicely, really are, they're for the most part, they're extermination camps. The people that are young and healthy and cooperative, they're going to be working, they're going to be farming, they're going to be doing a variety of things in inhumane conditions, and the people they judge as not useful, they're going to be gassed, they're going to be shot, they're going to be burned in ovens, they're going to be buried in mass graves, they're going to be exterminated by the millions. This is what we're not familiar with, folks. Let me tell you, we are familiar that the Jewish people and quite a few other groups, okay, we realized prior to our involvement in the war that there's something going on, but I don't believe that we're familiar with the scale of what's happening there and the atrocities of what's happening at this particular point. We know there's issues, but I don't think we know to this scale. And so this is going to continue, and this is what's happening there. Well, once we get involved in the war, we're going to do our best to change a few things. But I want you to know that we're going to have some issues here too. When the Japanese bomb Pearl Harbor, we're going to have our own reaction. It's not Kristallnacht, no, it's not concentration camps, but we do have relocation camps. We are indeed going to take a variety of people of Japanese descent who appear to be of Japanese descent and move them into internment camps away from the coast, away from the military involvement areas, away from some place that we feel like they might be spies, away from industry. We're going to move them into camps in a variety of very poor conditions for long-term storage. And the idea is we want them to be safe. So again, I want you to think Trail of Tears, because we're going to forcibly relocate these people. And these internment camps, there is a legacy we still struggle with. Okay? It's not the magnitude of the Holocaust, but there are definitely some hideous things that happened at those particular points. From there, what I want you to think about is I want you to think that once we're involved in this war, we're going to go full speed. We're going to go ahead and ramp up our production. Many of you are familiar with the COVID virus right now, and the fact that the president instituted an act. Well, that act about changing industry, about controlling industry and production, about realigning production and with government needs goes all the way back to this time, folks. It's part of that War Industries Board that allows the president and allows Congress to say, listen, this is what we're going to need done. This is what we need done. And so what's going to happen is we're going to dedicate all our resources towards winning this war. We make a huge difference. There's a lot of things that I can't go into the entire war. What I do want you to think about is a couple of things. I want you to realize we promised to help win the war in Europe first, and we're going to do that. And so in order to help win the war in Europe against the Germans, first thing we do is we're going to attack Africa. We're going to attack Africa because what we want to do is we want to get a foothold. We want to come up from Africa, up through Spain, up through Italy, up through the Mediterranean, and then fight our way up there. What we're going to determine is we don't know squat about how to do this war. So it's going to be a good training ground. And eventually what's going to happen is we're going to attack there. Then we're going to look at something called Operation Torch, where we're going to go ahead and land in Italy. What we don't want to do, and what we desperately do want to do, is launch a second front. We want to launch a Western front in Europe to take some of the heat off of the Eastern Front. Because what has happened is Hitler has decided that he needs more materials, and he needs more resources, and he needs natural gas, and he needs oil. And the best place he can get that is the USSR, the Soviet Union. So he turns to Stalin and says, hey, we would really love to have some of your oil. We'd love to have some of your supplies. We would like to go to the Caucasus Mountains there and get what we need. And Stalin's going to say no. So what will happen is Germany is going to violate the non-aggression pact and go to war with Russia. And what will happen is they are going to dedicate a whole lot of resources because the British are locked up on their island. They're undergoing the Battle of Britain, and they're being bombed in London on a nightly basis. And they're trying to throw planes together, put them up to protect. We know that France has largely been taken over and it's occupied at this particular point. We know that that Germany's spread into other parts of Europe. So Europe is largely on the defensive. And so what happens as they turn to face Russia, Russia is going to take the full heat. If you know anything about war, a land attack in Russia is always a bad thing. So what's going to happen is he's going to dedicate forces by the millions to attack Russia. You're going to have the siege of Stalingrad. You're going to have all the siege of Leningrad. There's going to be a lot of Russians that die. The Russians have basically one policy, that's scorched earth. It's like, listen, we're going to fight, and when we decide that we're losing, we're going to take everything that's usable, we're going to burn everything else, and we're going to make you fight us tooth and nail. Stalin definitely wants us to open up a second front. We're eventually going to do that. That second front is going to be opened up with Operation Overlord. And Operation Overlord is going to be that thing that becomes D-Day. So what I want you to think about is how we develop this huge plan, how we develop this huge idea of invading what has largely become known as Fortress Europe at this particular point. So what I want to talk about in the last video for this section is talk about Operation Overlord, talk about setting up the Ghost Army, and then talk about the resolution of the war and get into the Cold War, because that gets set up about this particular time as well. All right, I'll be back in just a bit.